Lesson 7.3, Solving Percent Problems. Percent is a ratio whose denominator is 100. To represent A is P percent of B, use the proportion A over B equals P over 100. You do need to know that A is called part of the base. So this is your A. B is your base, and P percent will turn into P over 100, and that's the percentage. Before I move on, if you have 50%, you could write that as a fraction by putting 50 over 100, and that's how you can set up your proportion. In example 1, a library receives a donation of books. Out of 360 books, 45 are science fiction. What percent, so we're trying to find the P, of the books donated are science fiction? Let's set up a proportion. You will need to remember this, or at least know how to set up a percent proportion. So you had 360 books, 45 are science fiction. Usually you can assume, now again this is an assumption so it's not always going to be true, that the smaller number is going to be your part of base, your A, where the larger number is going to be your base, B. So you put 45 over 360. That would be the opposite way, meaning the larger number is A if it's over 100%. Now that we have our proportion, we can multiply 45 times 100, and the way they do it is they multiply by 100, but so I'm actually going to do it differently. I'm going to do it over here. 45 times 100, and then divide by 360. Okay, remember we multiply the diagonals, divide by the leftover number, because essentially you are setting it equal to 360 times P, and that is dividing by 360 to both sides. Your answer is 12.5. Of the books, about 12.5% are science fiction. Because that is your P, you just put the percent sign indicating it's a percentage. Go ahead and try 1 and 2. 136 is what percent of 160? A is your 136, B is your 160, P over 100. Using cross products, we can do 136 times 100 and then divide by the leftover number. You end up with 85%. For number 2, see in this case, it's and this is when they say it like this is actually your A. I always remember that it's the A because it's always next to the is sign, where the of and then it's the base. So if you can try to remember of base, that should work too, because in this case you actually have the higher number as your part of base and the lower number as your base. So be careful about that. 78 times 100, let's cross products and divide by 60. You have 130%, and you can see, this is what I said in the previous slide, if the percentage is more than 100%, then you are going to have part of a base be higher than the base number. In example 2, you're going to find part of a base this time. So you're going to find A, you're going to find A. This year for mowing lawns, you earned 125%. We can automatically know that that's your P. Of last year's earnings, which was 484. Here's that word of. Sorry about that, let's try that again. Of, there's that word of, so that means that the next number is going to be your base, which is 484. Let's do our cross products. This time we have 125 times 480, 4, and then divide by the 100. And again, what they did was they multiplied by the denominator, which is the same thing. $605 was your earnings from this year. In example 3, find a base. Here's that word is, and before the is the A. After the of, that's your B. So let's set that up. 27 over B equals 6 over 100. Multiply, I use cross products, they do not. Actually, this time they do. You can see that they do this time. 27 times 100 equals 6B. Divide by 6 after you multiply, and you get 450. 27 is 6% of 450. 450 is your base. In summary, if the question is A is what percent of B, you solve for, well, what does the word what say? What percent? You solve for P. That's the unknown. If it says what number is, look for that word is. Before is was part of the base. If it says A is P percent of, look at that word of. After of, what did I say the after of was? Base. Solve for B. This is helpful to know how to read the question so you know how to set up the problem. Please try number 3 and 4. Remember the summary of percent problems. What is, so there's what and here's is. So you're finding A. That means B is 98. And then put the percent as a decimal over 100. Multiply the diagonals, divide by 100. And if you have not solved this by yourself yet, please solve it first. Pause the video, solve it, and then check your answer. 196 thousandths. Number 4, A is P percent of, here's that word of, and now we don't know base. 234 over B equals 104 over 100. Multiply 234 times 100, divide by 104, 225 is your answer.